from Tel Aviv is Barry Shaw, a senior associate for public diplomacy at the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you very much for speaking to us. How significant would you say this resolution is? It calls Israeli settlement construction on Palestinian land a flagrant violation under international law. How important is this?
It's very significant in the sense that this is a day of infamy for the United Nations, probably on a par with the Zionism is racism resolution that they passed in 1975, which took several years until 1991 to be rescinded. You know, I'm looking through now some of the terms of this so-called resolution from today, Marion. For instance, one, it talks about the reaffirming about the establishment of by Israel of settlements in Palestinian territory occupied since 1967. I beg the question, you know, what was Palestinian territory before 1967? Before 1967, in fact, what was the status between 1948 and 67? Why didn't you hear the cries of the United Nations so-called Palestinians then, when the land was occupied by Jordan in a war of aggression? Never heard anything about it.
Mr. Shaw, can I just bring you back to the importance of this resolution? You have 15 members of the United Nations Security Council. The majority have voted in favour of it. The US abstained from the vote. They have said that, look, effectively, if the settlement building continues, it completely imperils the prospect of a two-state solution. Do you think, I mean, is this something that you agree with? Is a two-state solution possible under a scenario where we see continuing settlement building on Palestinian land?
Let me then address the two issues of what you said about settlement, and I'll point to the absolute double standards and hypocrisy of the United Nations vote today, because they have nothing to say about the settlement construction of Turkey in Cyprus. They have nothing to say about the settlement project or occupation of Morocco in Western Sahara, etc., etc. So what you can define when a resolution becomes anti-Semitic when you apply the 3 Ds of demonization, delegitimization, and double standards. And as Samantha Powell said today, it was strange that today there were a couple of resolutions that didn't even come up to the vote. Things that we're talking about Aleppo, for instance. And there are other resolutions. Samantha Powell reminded us there were 18 resolutions against Israel in the United Nations during the whole of December, and only 3 against Syria, Iran, Iraq, Sudan, and all the other countries. This is hypocrisy. Now, if you want to talk about the two-state solution, if the Palestinians think, and the divided Palestinian divide between the Fatah in Ramallah and Hamas and recognized terrorist organization in Gaza are picking this unilateral way of hitting on Israel rather than sitting, as the Israeli prime ministers have been asking for many times, to sit in direct talks and agree not just two states, Marion, but two states.
Mr. Shaw, can I just get in there, because you're going over a number of points, but none of them appear to answer the question. There seems to be a pretty broad-based and actually near unanimous agreement in the UN Security Council today that, firstly, Israeli settlement building is illegal. It's a violation of international law. But secondly, should it continue, it imperils the prospect of a two-state solution. What specifically do you object to when it comes to that?
This is what stops the obstacle for peace. This was a knife taken out of a Jew in Efrat by a Palestinian terrorist today. The Jew is fighting for his life in an Israeli hospital. This is what's stopping the peace process over here. The incitement to kill Jews by the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah, and also the incitement to kill Jews by Hamas in Gaza. This is the obstacle of peace. This and the rejection to sit with Israel and talk about two states for two people. This and the rejection of Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority to reject any notion of living in peace alongside the Jewish state of Israel.
All right, well, Barry Shaw, thank you for sharing your views with us. Barry Shaw joining us live there from Tel Aviv. Let's continue.